Okay. We're live.
Hey, good afternoon, everybody. It is September 7th, 4:30 p.m. and I'd like to welcome you to council. With the changes in COVID and stuff, we were hoping to be back in person today, but unfortunately with the changes, we are going to just delay it a little bit longer. So I would like to start with some opening remarks. First off, there is a federal forum tonight at the BCF at 6:30. The doors open at 6, but the event starts at 6:30. As well, the Dinosaur Half Marathon is on this weekend. They are still looking for volunteers, so if you are available to help them out, please contact Becky Kowalchuk, as she is one of the organizers. I'd like to send a huge congratulations out to Catherine and Patrick Bonneville, who manage the airport. They've had two incredible events last week. One was the Elevation Air and the Hope Air, and I was had fortunate enough to attend them both. And just incredible how the way air tourism can be such a huge impact to our community. So congratulations to Catherine and Patrick for making everybody feel extremely welcome, and the reviews are getting really, really amazing hits. This week, or September 18th, is a farm to table. It's up at the Drumheller Ag Society, and it's they are looking, they need to sell some more tickets. Their funds go towards the roof, I understand. Am I correct, Lisa? I think it's for the roof there. Anyways.
So.
Okay, thanks. Yeah, I'm sorry, I forgot to confirm that. But anyways, I'm sure that's what I was told was for the roof. Anyways, Mark from O'Crock-Mashur is one of the celebrity chefs there, so I'm imagining it's going to be an amazing event. So if you want tickets, contact 823-2505 or email drumagsociety@gmail.com. And finally, I think that's all the announcements I have. Oh no, I have one more very, very important announcement. The flowers down throughout the valley, I didn't get a chance to thank them before they left, but thank you to all the summer staff who looked after the flowers throughout the valley, the downtown merchants, everybody. I mean, we had some of the hottest weather we've had for years and years, and those plants still look absolutely incredible. So thank you to all of them who took the care and kind attention, because even now you drive into the valley, what an incredible, incredible sight. Those potato plants obviously liked everybody. So Daryl, please make sure that Public Works get a huge applause for all the efforts that they've made on that.
Okay.
I would like to go into Councillor Garbett. He is going to be my deputy mayor for the next 2 months. And what an honor to have him in this final stretch of the election. So I'm going to put him to work. He doesn't know it yet, but he's going to get put to work.
That's why I've planned my holidays.
So would you please read your oath, Councillor Garbett?
Absolutely. Thank you, Your Worship. I, Jay Garbett, swear that I will diligently, faithfully, and to the best of my ability execute according to the law the office of Deputy Mayor for the town of Drumheller for the months of September and October 2021. I solemnly affirm.
Wonderful. Well, congratulations, Jay, and well done. And we will see how the next council goes, but you have been a true inspiration to us all. So thank you.
Am I dying? Am I dying?
No, but you saying you're going to be, I'm going to put you to work as fast as I can before you go on holidays.
Oh, okay. Gotcha.
That's my goal.
Just didn't know if you knew something I didn't know. That's all.
Do I have any additions to the agenda? No? All right, so can I get a motion to adopt the agenda of September 7th, 2021, please? Fred, Lisa, all in favor? Carried. And can I get a motion to adopt the minutes of the August 23rd, 2021 regular council meeting, please? Tom, Tony, comments? All in favor? Carried. And I would like to then move on to Daryl 6.1.1, please.
Thank you, Your Worship. We had one or two meetings ago, I think it brought forward the Intermunicipal Subdivision Appeal Board bylaw 17.21 for council. The council gave it first and second reading. And what we had been asked was to have us go out and try to find more people to be on this subdivision appeal board. And so we've been advertising for this and also for the assessment review board. And we have received the sum total of 0 applications in the last few weeks, which is similar to what we'd received previous to that. So we're recommending that council proceeds with third reading of this bylaw, and that we can enter into an agreement with the Palliser Regional Municipal Services for the creation of a subdivision appeal board. And again, this would only be in the case that we need them. So we wouldn't disband our board necessarily, but this is a way to be able to make sure that we have enough resources to be able to deal with it, as well as also work with Palliser region and some other municipalities if some of our people want more work than the infrequent work that they have right now. So.
Thank you, Daryl. Can I get a motion, please? Tony?
I propose that council give third reading to Palliser Intermunicipal Subdivision and Development Appeal Board bylaw 17.21 as presented.
Seconder, please. Lisa, comments? Christine?
Yeah, I just had one comment to make about the regional SDAB. I did feel that the regional SDAB would be a nod toward judicial independence, which today's courts are obviously founded upon. A regional SDAB consisting of some non-Drumheller residents may help ensure that the board is not subject to pressure or influence or biases, if you will, and are free to make impartial decisions based solely on fact and law. And so with that being said, I support this motion.
Thank you, Christine. Jay, please.
Thank you, Your Worship. Swimming against the stream for my honorable colleague, I just want to renew my disappointment that no applications were forthcoming. Not every voluntary position with the town can be sexy and exciting. Some of them happen very infrequently. And while I see this regional board as a very reasonable and logical response to the infrequency of appeals and the ongoing training requirements that were imposed upon us by the province of Alberta, it doesn't change the fact that in 11 years of serving on this, even though sometimes the answer is going to be against the appellant, I don't know that independence is as much of an issue as knowledge of the community, and it concerns me greatly. I would imagine it's really just such a backwards thing. I mean, the next thing we won't be able to get enough volunteers to do is municipal planning commission, and I think if we were talking about joining a regional municipal planning commission, Tom and Tony might have the same concerns that I do around whether or not people from outside the community could fully understand this unique one that we have, and the unique challenges we face being so geographically spread out, et cetera, et cetera. So I'm not going to vote in favor of this. I haven't on the other two readings. I understand why it has to happen, but it doesn't change the fact that I'm disappointed that we weren't able to attract any applications.
Thank you, Jay. Tom?
Yeah, thank you, Your Worship. I guess my comments are a little bit to do with this, as well as the 6.1.4 assessment review board as well. And I guess my first question would be, so I am trained, certified, recertified assessment review board person. I know we do have trained, certified
subdivision development appeal board people. And I'm just wondering, Daryl, will they be used when and if we do have an SDAB hearing?
Yes, and so we had asked the SDAB committee members if they were willing to join a regional one. And two of the three people said that they were willing to. The third one, her term is, or her training is expired and she wasn't willing to get recertified. So she would not be a member of SDAB if a hearing were held today. So, but the other two were willing to, as well as the clerk is willing to do it. And I can't speak for the elected official that's on it currently.
So I guess my worry would be, so when and if we need to have an SDAB hearing in Drumheller, this will go to the regional consortia who will decide, and will they decide to have Drumheller people on it, or can they decide to have Red Deer people on it?
So it wouldn't. So for SDAB, it's just Palliser region, so there wouldn't be anyone outside the region. The intent, of course, is to be able to talk to the development authority first of all, which would in this case would be me. And if we can populate it with our own people first, that's well within our rights to do that. If, however, our people said that they chose not to do it for a reason, perhaps as Christine may have pointed out, then we would certainly we would come and ask Palliser to say we need to have one person, two people, three people on our SDAB. But the goal still would be to ensure that because there's a cost if you're bringing in someone from Oyen, for instance, right? So if we can use Drumheller people, then that's the preference, of course. So I think from the member standpoint, and I know certainly both of our members indicated this, that they actually would feel they want more practice, and they're not getting it with one hearing a year or less than that. And so they're actually looking forward to being able to hear more from other municipalities, just so that they can get more comfortable in the role of decision making and analysis, which isn't necessarily one of local flavor or jurisdiction, but it's again because the training is around trying to look at the legal piece and dissect the land use bylaw of the appropriate municipality. So
Thanks, Daryl. Christine, go ahead.
Sorry, Daryl, and in response to the official that's on that board right now, which is myself, I am looking forward to getting the training again and being recertified and being in a position for the SDAB for Drumheller, as well as the intermunicipal one.
Anybody else? Okay, so all in favor of the motion of third reading to Palliser Intermunicipal Subdivision and Development Appeal Board bylaw 17.21. Opposed? Noted, thank you. Okay, let's move on to, and just to clarify, Daryl, so the bottom line is we just didn't have the people.
right, and I think and this is to Jay's point, I think partly. So stuff has changed with respect to this, with mandatory certification. You used to be able to get certified and I think kind of keep the certification. I think the term I'd heard recently was grandfathered in. The province is no longer allowing that to happen. So there's mandatory recertification every few years. And I think some of the people are looking at it as I have to spend time doing the certification and I may never get called up to actually do something. And that's certainly one of the one of the members' opinion right now is that I did certification, but I didn't actually get to use it only once. So I don't really want to belong anymore or have to get certified. So I think if those things have changed, it might be a different story, but and ultimately we don't have any new applicants that are interested in it. So.
Okay, thank you, Daryl. Let's move on to 6.1.2 now then, please.
So this is the amendments to the land use bylaw 16.20. So amending, which is the amending bylaw 1821. So we're looking for second reading, and preferably we'd, unless there's an objection, we would have third reading as well. We had a public hearing a couple of weeks ago. There were no concerns of note raised. There was a personal issue raised by one of the people, but we're dealing with that. And so these are basically the changes that we've talked about before in detail. A couple of highlights were making sure that we changed part of the flood hazard overlay for flood. There was some errors in some of the maps that had been constructed. Looking to add wording around tourist dwellings, accessory buildings. We are looking to, of course, we had been delegated the authority to make corrections to the mapping where there was errors in either the color or some of the zones had changed, like the Badlands area was a good example of that. And then this is so basically cleaning up some of the things that we had talked about a few weeks ago in there in quite a bit of detail, and addition of billboard signs, some signs for bus benches, or not bus benches, but benches and things like that. So there were no changes from the first reading to this. And so, we're looking for second reading. And again, unless there's changes or discussion, third reading would be perfect as well.
Mr. Earl, can I get a motion, please? Tom, go ahead.
I move that council give second reading to amending land use bylaw 2021-A bylaw 1821 as amended.
Seconder, please. Christine, comments? Tom, go ahead.
Yeah, I just wanted to mention that, this new land use bylaw is head and shoulders better, in my opinion and many people's opinion, than the old land use bylaw. We have come across some glitches, of course, that we've had to fix over the last while. And even these amendments, I don't think are the be all end all of the land use bylaw. I can see other things coming up over the next little while that we may have to tweak, we may have to change because they're not working quite the way we want. So as I mentioned, when we did our public forums on the new municipal development plan and the land use bylaw, that these are living documents that they change because we find that they're not quite what we want. And so even though we are doing this amendment, I can assure people that we will be continually reviewing it and quite probably coming across things that are not quite right. And we will quite probably be amending it again.
I think, Tom, to your comments, I just counted, there were 34 amendments to the last land use bylaw that was 12 years old. And so things that we hadn't thought about in 2008, cannabis is a good example. The legalization of cannabis required not one, but two changes to the land use bylaw. So this is a living document. It doesn't get finished and never touched again. So.
Jay, go ahead.
Thank you, Your Worship. I absolutely agree with Councillor Zarisky's comments. It's the very definition of a living, breathing document that has to be continuously upgraded. Specifically, I have questions about section 13 as it relates to billboards, because some of the particular clauses I just want to understand. 4.8.4 about the minimum separation distance of 100 meters. That's a football field. There's certainly areas in the valley already that have density of billboards that is much greater than that. Are those intended to be grandfathered? What if somebody has to change a sign that's in an area where there's already a sign that's too close? What's our intention there? Will they be allowed to read?
So anything that's, oh, sorry, I'll let you finish. So anything that's installed right now is grandfathered. So if we're not going to change, it's no different than if we said that houses must to have a certain finish on them. We're not going to go back to existing houses. So this is all about new stuff that comes before us. So if you're changing the innards of a billboard, so the actual face of it, the sign of it, there's no change that's required that's going to now change 100 meters. The 100, it's going to trigger the 100 meters, but it would be for new ones. So
Where'd the 100 meters come from?
actually came from other municipality bylaws, or so we looked at what other municipalities do, and really it comes down to more so than anything, you're putting billboards in places where people are tending to move a bit faster, and so it comes down to a ability to focus on them and not be a distraction from the task at hand, which is driving.
So that leads me to 4.8.6. I'm curious again, is that the rationale, Daryl, for this requirement that the signs have no, this particular element of this bylaw would relegate people to just using the ancient technology of a flat static sign, where billboards in other communities are typically electronic these days that do allow for multiple messages. Sometimes they have panels which flip, and sometimes they're actually a giant LCD screen, which then would send different messages. Why are we not allowing that?
That's a very good question, Councillor. Yeah, I'm not sure why, other than I know this was, again, coming from a couple of other municipal ones. So if we think that that's something that we would allow, we can certainly strike that or change it. So
that would be my request, is that we remove 4.8.6. I just I think the previous one, I guess it would be 4.8.5, speaks to, I think, I don't have it in front of me any longer, but the about how they're illuminated again, and I'm curious if perhaps those two things aren't a bit, I understand that we've tried to import clauses from other things, but perhaps those are a bit old-fashioned and out of date. So I would argue that 4.8.6 in particular should come out, and 4.8.8. So I think the listening public and perhaps even council needs to be reminded. Is there a way for us to look at a quick overlay of how much Badlands District is in the valley?
So the Badlands District is basically from the toe of the slope of the valley up the side slope of the valley. So basically the walls. If I was doing it like this, it'd be the walls of the valley. So the flat part on the bottom is not Badlands District. So on the bottom, the side slope is. And then the top past I forget how far up on top it is, but I think the first 30 meters approximately is Badlands.
So not on the valley floor, there is no flat land, which is Badlands District?
Well, again, there was, that we are changing because there was some errors in drafting it. So that stuff is not Badlands District. Yeah. So Badlands District was meant to be stuff that you don't develop on. Right. So you're not developing on the side slopes of the valley, but you can develop on the flat portions at the bottom. And
so the same grandfathering would be true, because obviously we have a number of billboards that are already on those elevations.
Yes, yeah, it would be true. And actually, I'm going to go on a limb and say I can probably think about two that are actually on the side slope. The rest of them are on flat sections. So that would be where you would, again, they would be allowed there because they're not considered Badlands. So.
Okay, so the whole area isn't so if it's vertical, it's Badlands District, but if it's horizontal, it's not.
For the most part, that's right. Yeah, that's correct. Yeah.
Thank you. Those are my questions. Thank you.
Good. Just to go back to 4.8.5, especially around the flashing electronic animated rotating lights piece there. So I think one of the things to remember again is that while this is advertising, this is also, these things are generally not allowed in areas where traffic can be distracted from their task at hand. So that's why 4.8.5 is in there, is the whole idea that you don't have anything off to the side shining light into your face while you're trying to drive down the road, especially in the evening. So
I get it. My concern was more around an overreach on the illumination part, that by its nature, this would eliminate an electronic sign by a different route, which I don't think is our intention.
Right, it's not, yeah. So having said that, it's interesting. There are 2 electronic signs in town, and we get complaints about both of them all the time, about the fact that they're shining into people's homes and blinding people just going down the street. So there is the other side of allowing those things to happen. But again, 4.8.6 is, it's really the same as if it doesn't matter, it doesn't really mean anything. I think we can strike that from the finished product for sure.
Thank you.
Thank you, John. And Jay, Fred, go ahead.
Thank you. I guess I feel the opposite of Jay. I don't really, and I'm not saying this from the point of view of what I've done for a living for 50 years, but rather what my home, the valley, I'm not sure I really want to see, illuminated LED on the road to Wayne or the road to East Cooley or any place on the side there. I just don't think it's going to add anything to the valley. I think that we do owe it to the people that invest in businesses in our community to have a place to be able to advertise, because there is a limited season for a lot of these attractions and things like that. So definitely the idea of allowing billboards, but however, multiple, Procter and Gamble kind of messages flashing in the valley, I'm really not sure I agree that a roadway. I also question the 100 meters. I've been doing this long enough to remember when the bylaw got changed from 100 yards to 500 yards, and now we're going back to 100 again. So I would feel better if we could find out why the last time this bylaw was done, billboard bylaw, why it was changed from 100 to 500. There must have been something in there that prompted us to increase that distance between billboards, because a lot of them were taken down at that time. I don't know. I believe we need to allow our businesses to, in a tasteful way that blends in with where we live, in such a way that people can read it driving down the road, but it's not driven into the forehead with illumination. That's just my opinion.
Thank you, Fred. Lisa, go ahead.
All right, so I'm going to swim against that. I absolutely agree that, we're in the 21st century, and I think sign technology, as you know, Fred, has come a long way. And considering the amount of darkness hours that we have in our community living in Canada throughout the winter, I think any business, if they can get a leg up to help advertise, I would fully support that. But that being said, there's always going to be situations where it's not ideal. And I'm going to leave that to the administrators to make sure that that is done correctly. The other thing I have an issue kind of sort of with is part 311 in regards to shipping containers and not allowing them to have signs. I think that there's been kind of a bit of a movement where smaller businesses are starting out in these types of units, and I'm not sure why we want to allow signage to be put on those. And then the other one is park or benches every 100 meters. I get it. It might seem a little cluttered, but when you're working on people sitting downtown, trying to promote your business, I think maybe a little bit of leeway, like 50 meters might go a long ways. Just my thoughts.
Thank you, Lisa.
I'm
Fred,
sorry, just can you tell me, you're talking about the signs on sea containers, and you said 3 something.
So part 311 Add clause 4.1.15. No signs shall be permitted within the municipality's boundaries that are attached to or mounted on permanently fixed or stationary transport trailers, vehicles, or shipping containers. Did I misread that?
I'm sorry, I'm not,
No, you read it right, Lise. That's exactly the clause that's there.
Okay.
I agree with you.
Sorry, can you say that 4.1?
oh, I see. So bullet point 11, sorry, I'm just trying to, okay. So 4 point, no sign shall be permitted within the municipal boundaries that are attached or mounted to permanently fixed or stationary transport trailers, vehicles, or shipping containers. Right.
Mhm. Yeah, I just think that, if they want to go to the expense to put in, say, like a drive-through little coffee shop, why would we stop them from putting a sign on that?
And we have examples of
Yep.
out
Sure,
of the
right?
out of the who's, we already have examples of where this doesn't, we have not. Anyway,
Well,
it's
yeah,
for people to look at anything and say, well, wait a second, they were allowed to, and the answer to be, well, we used to, but we don't allow that anymore. I mean, this is an evolving thing, as you're talking about, Lise, and so I think you made a good point.
All right, anybody else? Okay, so I guess, how do you want me to do this, Daryl? Because we have changes, obviously, to this motion.
so I think you can do two things. You can pass second reading, and then say, you can make it, sorry, I'm looking at these things. So,
We pass
could
second reading and then
pass
make
second reading,
motion
then the
changes in third?
yeah, or yes, and then make those motions in the third reading to say, so I'm going to say that you strike clause 4.1.15 and 4.8.6, or we can bring it back in 2 weeks' time with those changes amended for third reading. So.
Okay, well, I'm going to ask for a call for a vote to pass second reading of bylaw 2021-A 18.21 as amended. All in favor?
Your worship, just as a point of order, you're calling for that second reading without the requested amendments?
Correct. And then we can ask for those corrected amendments in the third reading, or I can ask for a motion as it stands or a motion with the changes to go as amended.
Yeah. Right. So you can make a amended motion for second reading with those, to strike those two clauses or one of those clauses or both of those clauses or none of them. Or you can do second reading as done and then say, like, to amend third reading, make the motion of third reading to strike those two clauses.
Yes. Go ahead, Fred.
I would do that, vote on the second reading with amendment for a third reading at another time when we can actually see what this is going to equate to. Because I have to do some soul searching and ask, go to people and ask them what they think of the illumination. I'm really not sure. I still feel that way.
Okay, well, then I'm going to ask for a motion for the second reading with the amendments. Does that work, Jay?
Somebody else already made the motion, so I don't know who made it. Tony,
Friendly.
Tom, was it you?
Tom, oh, Christine. So I think, sorry to interject here, but I think, so if you want to, so I'm hearing differences of opinion. So if the thought is that some of you want to strike those two clauses, and some of you aren't sure about it, you either, and of course you don't always have to vote unanimously, but if you think that you want to pass second reading and then direct administration to make those changes and bring it back for a third reading, you're well with like that, you could certainly do that. And we would bring it back in 2 weeks, or actually we'd bring it back next week to council. So
I think that's what we're looking for. Councillor Makawecki's asked a particular question around the distancing clause. And just to be crystal clear, my issue was on limiting technology. Particularly, I'm thinking about those rotating I wouldn't even know what you call them, but there's a lot of billboards in the city that the panels just change, that they're not actually LCD screens, and so yeah, I'm not really looking to light the sky up with giant illuminated screens everywhere either. What I want is to not limit the technology in areas that aren't of our expertise.
Then Jay, I would go along with both you and Lisa, but I think we have to watch what we ask for, because some of the new technology there, some of the billboards are 30 or 40 feet long, twice what we're used to in the valley. And they're all illuminated.
We've already limited that though, but their specifications are already clearly outlined in this,
Okay.
right?
Okay.
So I agree with what you said, Daryl. If you want to call for a second reading with the amendments that are already listed, and then we table this till the following week for third reading, excellent idea.
Perfect. Okay, so
Somebody's got to accept the friendly amendment to have those entered into the record.
yeah, so Christine made the motion. Will you accept the friendly amendment, Christine? Yes. So, all right. So all in favor of the amendment made in the proposed motion of land use
Can we-
bylaw 2021-A bylaws 18.21 as amended. Does that make sense, Chris or Denise?
Can you just tell me exactly what it is that you're doing with these amendments? Are we striking, and which clauses are we striking?
So we're looking to strike clause bullet point 11, which is 4.1.15, or change it. I think change it, because I think the shipping container piece is the one, right? Because I think one of the concerns that I hear about, so you don't maybe hear about all the time, is that there's a trailer from a business that ceased to exist 20 years ago, where the sign is still on the side of the trailer and someone's using it for storage of something. Is that by rights today, that sign should be removed because that business no longer exists. However, in the past, we have not done that. So versus I'm putting a shipping container for a coffee shop downtown, and I want to put a sign that advertises my coffee shop. So I think it should be, we'll look at this and come back with an appropriate clause, because it might just simply be, we're going to take it off of permanently fixed or stationary transport trailers, but leave shipping containers alone. For instance, could be a suggestion.
So do we have to actually specify any of these changes at this point, or just?
No, no, I'm just
Okay, great.
saying that for the purpose of council. So again, bullet point 11, and then bullet point 13, which is clause number 4.8.6.
Yeah, I'm asking for that to be stricken.
And then the third part is 4.8.4 to confirm the 100-meter distance.
So the motion doesn't actually need to be amended then?
Okay.
Is that, we can just pass it as second reading and then make the
right.
changes and
Yeah,
then bring
to
it
bring
back?
it back for third reading, correct.
Christine, go ahead.
And kind of on the note that you were saying there, Daryl, about the shipping containers, like your point 11, I do see the merit of maybe keeping shipping containers there that aren't used for business purposes, because I do think you're probably right. There are probably old signs on shipping containers that are being used just for storage. So you might have to go back to the drawing board in terms of shipping containers that are now being used for businesses, like Lisa said, at the Hulu's. So that's probably, because I
right.
take shipping containers out of clause 4.15 for that reason.
Yeah, unless, so maybe the end of that is unless the business is currently in use or something like that, right?
Yeah, that's a really smart one, because I see some trailers around that shouldn't be, they should be removed, the label should be removed.
Right.
Okay, so all in favor again of second reading, and then all the changes will come back in third reading. Good,
Correct.
everybody?
Yes.
Okay, so all in favor, please. Carried, thank you.
Thank you.
Okay, let's move on to 6.1.3, please. Cheryl, are you doing that or is Greg?
Great. I can do it because it's it's a bylaw one. So this is we had first reading of the police committee repeal bylaw. I think we talked about it last week. With the idea was that we will repeal the police committee bylaw. That CAC will cease to exist, and that RCMP and administration will bring a committee called the Police Advisory Committee forward. By the end of the year, we'll get volunteers to be on the committee and basically replace both those committees and incorporate all of the some of the policies and bylaw and other pieces of both those committees into something that works better for the community. Because the problem is that both of these kind of work, and trying to just resolve that and make something that actually works and that is supported by everybody. So looking for second reading on this. And again, ideally, if there was a third reading, unless there's any changes.
I get a motion, please, Fred?
Yeah, I propose the council give second reading to the police committee repeal bylaw 1921 as presented.
Oh, sorry, seconder Tom. Comments, please. Tom, go ahead.
Thank you, Your Worship. Just a little bit of a comment regarding the Citizens Advisory Committee. I've served on the Citizens Advisory Committee to the RCMP for probably 25 years now, in various capacities as a citizen, as councillor, etc. And it has been a very good entity in getting kind of general public feedback to the RCMP, getting RCMP to explain very simple, casual terms to people of the general public, what's going on and how they're doing things. And it really bridged the gap between kind of the average person and the detachment commander and all of the things that were going on at the detachment. And I would just like to say I'm quite pleased with the new Police Advisory Committee. It looks like it will be very good and will incorporate both the old police committee and the Citizens Advisory Committee and serve both of those needs. So I am very much in favor of it. I don't think we are losing anything. I think it'll be more efficient. I think it'll be just as good, if not better, than the old Citizens Advisory Committee.
Thanks, Tom. Go ahead, Jay.
It was actually Councillor Zarisky's thoughts I was going to be probing for, because I know of his service on this and the very different roles that these two groups were playing. So I was most interested in what Councillor Zarisky's opinion was about making what he had always referred to on the CAC as quite an informal gathering, a much more formal one. And I agree that the committees of the town of Drumheller need to fit the community's needs. So I'm glad to hear of your endorsement, Tom. Thank you.
Thank you, Jay. Fred, did you have something?
I did. I see this as a positive step. One of the things that we looked at was being basically the Police Act dictates that a policing committee will have a public complaints director, which has always been an incredibly hard position to fill, not to mention it was expensive. The training was few and far between. We looked into a regional approach to the police complaint director. And when we look at it, the RCMP have stated that they will have a public input of some kind, and the CAC and the police committee accomplished that. Combining them together under a public advisory committee gets around the word of the law as far as having a public complaints director, but still allows us to sit at the table with the AAPG, or the Alberta Association of Police Governance, and be able to draw on their resources and remain as members in that organization. So I only see it as forward thinking. And I know that Greg also has talked about trying to umbrella other organizations underneath it so that all the groups that look at crime prevention and stuff like that have a common area to practice and combine their efforts. So I think this is a great move forward.
Thanks, Fred. Anybody else? Okay, all in favor of second reading? Carried. Can I get a motion for third reading, please? Fred? You're muted, Fred.
Sorry, not easy on an iPad. I move that council give third reading to the police committee repeal bylaw 1921 as presented.
Thank you, Fred. Seconder, Tom? Comments? All in favor? Carried. All right, Daryl, let's move on to 6.1.4, the Assessment Review Board, please.
Thank you, Your Worship. So last meeting, we talked about a joint assessment review board. We had a request for decision that was approved for delegation of authority for administration to negotiate with the Red Deer group. We have since received the information from them that they will accept us, and I think it was more of a capacity issue for them, not whether or not we met any targets or did anything else special. So they did provide that information to us about 2 weeks ago. It's in line with what we talked about at our last meeting, which was the yearly membership fee of $2,000 plus the cost for each appeal. So again, in some years it won't cost us anything. And in other years, in addition to the membership fee. And so the original intent of it was to do this for a trial period of not less than 2 years. And we're still recommending that. One of the things that's required by the group is, which is led by the city of Red Deer, is a bylaw needs to be passed and our bylaw repealed in order to have their authority for the Assessment Review Board's appeal. So just like I had said with the Subdivision Appeal Board, we've also advertised this. We've tried to talk to a few people to cajole them into actually joining this, and we have had zero interest from the public on joining a board if we kept our own. So or zero new interest. So, and in fact, one of the people, the last time we had an assessment appeal, one of the chair of it, who was a member of Starland, the MD of Starland, is no longer with the MD, so we don't even have a chair anymore, or if we were to hold an appeal in the next little while. So, and that's a good example of, we had 2 of the 3 members last time were from outside Drumheller. So, so what we're recommending is that council passes first reading of this, but ideally what we'd like to have is all 3 readings so that we can move forward, as we do have an appeal coming up in early October, I believe, that needs to be heard. So.
Thanks, Daryl. Can I get a motion, please, council? Tony, go ahead.
I'll make a motion that council give first reading to the Central Alberta Regional Assessment Review Bylaw 2021 and repeal bylaw 08.11.
Seconder, please. Christine, all in favor? Carried. Can I get a motion for second reading, please? Lisa?
Do you want me to reread it or just?
Yeah,
Yes.
we need to be official.
Okay, so I give second reading to bylaw 20.21 to come into effect and withdraw bylaw 8.11 as repealed.
Thank you. Seconder, please. Christine, comments, please. Tom, go ahead.
Yeah, Daryl, I wonder if you could clarify a little bit. Firstly, again, I am trained, certified, recertified, and I could be the chair of an assessment review board hearing. And I guess what I'm wondering is, why do we need to be a member of this regional assessment board when all we would need to do to have an assessment review board hearing is phone up Strathmore and say, hey, you got any trained assessment review board people? We want to have an assessment review board hearing in Drumheller on this date. And we could probably populate an assessment review board very easily. So I guess I'm wondering, it seems to be an awful lot of money to spend every year and conceivably not have any assessment review board hearings. And I don't know, I'm just a little bit unclear in that. If you could clarify, please.
So, sure. So I guess a couple of pieces to it. And I'm going to quote you, but in a loving way. So you just said, so we could phone up Strathmore and we could probably get some people, right? So the problem is that we don't know if we could or not. We might be able to, might not be able to. This would guarantee that we do get people for it. So that's the one difference. I think that when I look at what the members around us in Starland and Meehill and special areas do, almost all of them actually belong to the same group. So they're doing the same problem. So they're not able to phone Strathmore or Wheatland County and get people from those areas either. So I think from our standpoint, a $2,000 investment is for the next 2 years is probably pretty reasonable to see whether, and well, it doesn't preclude us from working on people. So if we can get people that are wanting to be certified and join the assessment review board, that's really great. And then we wouldn't need to continue on with this. The other piece, and we talked about this last time around this, is that, we think that we might see more assessment appeals coming up, and it probably is unlike maybe a subdivision appeal board where you want local knowledge, maybe you want people that aren't necessarily tied to the community to actually provide an independent view on assessments for over the next few years. So I think that there's a couple of different pieces that we've certainly have talked to other municipalities about what they see, and definitely in the Palliser region, which goes everywhere from down towards Strathmore all the way up towards Oyen and those areas. Everyone is struggling with the ability to get members to be on the committees on a regular basis. So it certainly doesn't preclude us. You can certainly be chair. You could also belong to this group and go and do other communities. But we're just not seeing the people that are wanting to sign up and stay certified and do all those things like we have in the past.
So would I then be on the roster, so to speak, of the Central Alberta Regional Assessment Review Board?
Yes, if you so chose to, you certainly would be, yes.
Okay.
Anybody else? All right, all in favor, second reading. Carried. You know what I'm going to say, Mr. Councillor Garbutt.
Yeah, I should have brushed up. I didn't realize we were doing that. I'll get Denise to correct me when I'm wrong. I waive objection. I'd like to move let me do this again. I would like to move no objection to third reading.
Thank you. Seconder Tom. Comments? All in favor?
So
Somebody's got to actually move the third reading.
Councillor Garbutt has just waived no objection to third reading, but you haven't done a third reading motion.
Okay, geez, see, we don't do this often enough. So he's waived it. Now I need a motion. I saw Lisa's hand up. No, Christine's hand's up. Go ahead, Christine.
Absolutely. I propose that council give third reading to the Central Alberta Regional Assessment Review Bylaw 20.21 and repeal Bylaw 08.11.
Wonderful. Thank you, Christine. Seconder, please. Tony. Comments? All in favor? Carried. Thank you, guys. All right, Greg, you're up. We're moving on to 6.2.1. Could we get a COVID update, please?
Your worship, members of council, administration, on Friday, the provincial government announced, because of rising infection numbers and hospitalizations, new temporary restrictions and rules. As of Saturday morning at 8 a.m., masks are mandatory in all indoor public spaces and workplaces. Schools are not required to implement masking, but they may continue as per what their own school boards wish to do. As of Saturday as well, restaurants, cafes, bars, pubs, nightclubs, other licensed establishments required to end alcohol service at 10 p.m. The province, Dr. Hinshaw, reading in an order, and some of the documentation of this, strongly recommending that all unvaccinated Albertans limit their indoor social gatherings to close contacts of only 2 cohort families, there's that word again, up to a maximum of 10 people. They're also offering $100 to get a first or second vaccine, a program that is stated now will end October 14th. It's worthy noting, and it's not to be unduly gloomy, but some of the numbers are quite staggering. If we were Ontario with 3 times the population, we would have a lot more numbers than we do, but we actually have, Ontario has half the number of active cases that Alberta has. And these are probably facts that councillors have already reviewed today. There are employers are being encouraged to pause any plans to have staff return to work and continue work from home measures. City of Calgary, for example, I think is going to maintain this until October 20th. City of Calgary, just for everyone's information, also declared a state of local emergency again and reinstituted their mask bylaw. Excuse me just 1 second here. No, I think that I've covered the bones of it. The bones. I've got the numbers over the weekend. We picked up another 4,900 positive cases. Our positivity is nearly 12% of the cases of COVID that are being tested in the province.
Thanks so much, Greg. Jay, you were first. Go ahead, please.
Thank you, Your Worship. Greg, we need to have a conversation around enforcement so that it's clear for the public. If council, typically, let me rephrase that. In the past, this council passed a municipal mask bylaw back when the province was refusing to lead on this particular mandate. They quickly did follow through, which made our municipal bylaw still enforceable, but really provincial health orders do supersede municipal bylaws. Yes? In other words,
yes.
Yeah, with the provincial health order being in place, there is no need to pass a municipal bylaw because enforcement should be being passed along to any peace officers, correct?
Correct. Now, in the town, Mr. Garbett, any member there, CMP or myself, could issue a violation ticket and a violation of provincial rules.
I'm sure that Saturday morning was quite a quick adaptation as the news only came out Friday after at 11:30 that this requirement was going to be reimposed. I know that most of us heard over the weekend from different citizens about whether or not we were seeing enough compliance. I know I was out and about a little on Sunday and saw, for the most part, tremendous compliance at a couple of different locations. While I was certainly disappointed to see a few people choosing to non-comply and was very frustrated with them strutting about as though they were doing something important other than endangering other people. I do want us to make sure that if there are going to be enforcement issues, in that the Solicitor General's office does not pass along quickly enough direction about enforcement for peace officers. I would like us to review this, especially if our numbers continue to accelerate. I don't know for a fact. I was only told that our numbers in Drumheller has now swelled to 27. That's getting nearer the non-institutional peaks that we were seeing when this was at its worst. And so I think it's imperative that this council keep a close eye and do whatever it can to strongly encourage our public to comply with these lawful orders that are meant for public safety as much as humanly possible. But if you have anything else to add around enforcement, Greg, I think the public might need to hear it.
No, Mr. Garbutt. Well, just serve the rest of council. We generally, any charges that were laid in previously under the different COVID waves that we did were laid under the provincial legislation. Most people knew there was a masking bylaw. We used that. We asked people to please comply, please put on a mask. And we generally were received very well by most people in the community, whether people knew me and I saw people in Walmart or I was in uniform downtown or not, or any of my members. People were generally, I would consider, fairly compliant. And there's always some, of course, that will, some people that just don't buy into it, and that's, I guess that's what the laws are for. But we are more than happy, and we will continue as we have been. My staff can certainly and will be, keeping a lookout, pushing the idea of safety, public safety, be considerate of your fellow man, things along that line, and please wear a mask. And I liaise every day with the staff sergeant of the RCMP, and any changes that we see will generally, we will be discussing, and I'm happy to come back to council in short order and give you an update.
But strangely enough, there were no reimposition of any limits on indoor gatherings, correct?
Only they're recommending
for the unvaccinated.
Yes, for the unvaccinated, and that is a recommendation, sir. That wasn't put into a policy that I've seen so far.
Understood. Thank you.
Christine, go ahead.
Yeah, I totally agree with everything that Jay said here, and would absolutely support if the need comes that we don't get further information from the province that we would need to reinstate a municipal mask mandate. Sorry, Greg, chicken or the egg thing happening here. Why did Calgary issue a mask mandate after, was it after the province had already issued their, it's kind of like, so why did they need to do a municipal one on top, on top of a provincial one?
I'm not sure, Ms. D'Amato, unless it's a move they felt they had to do for Calgary being allowed. I can't speak to their motivation in this, I'm sorry. But they have done it, and I heard rumblings of an emergency council meeting or a meeting called in short order in the city to do this. So unless they felt it gave them more control, perhaps, they do have a very wide municipal enforcement membership authority. Of course, the city is a very big place as well. So right. I'm sorry, I'd be happy to look into it, but I don't have the answer for you.
Well, I'm just curious that if it was under the grounds of enforcement and making it easier for the city to enforce, then that would certainly be the answers that both Jay and probably the rest of council and I are looking for regarding that. Thank you.
I think their timing was very much the same as the province's announcement. So it was both, their meeting was on Friday, and I think so that probably the timing was right there. At passing a bylaw, plus then the province coming down with enforcement too. And
they have a disproportionate number of the new cases.
That's right, yes.
Their zone is without question the hotbed of new infections.
Mm-hmm.
Anybody else? So Greg, I got an email actually just before council asking, a resident said that they've been into businesses and there's people walking around with no masks, but the staff are not saying anything to these people. How do you recommend that that we respond?
Well, if we had the information as to what those locations were, we'd be happy to go down and speak to everyone. But again, if we're somewhere and people are not complying with the law, we generally take the least invasive manner. We ask people to please comply. And that's what we will be doing if we see people not complying with the provincial rules at this time.
Okay, well, I'll just forward you the email then, and
please.
You did list the company name on there, so
okay.
I will have you just take it down to them. Okay, any other questions? All right, well, thanks, Greg, for that.
Thank you.
And so now we will move on to 7.1.1, infrastructure maintenance development for 24 advice from officials. we now will adjourn. We will go into this meeting and we won't be coming back. We'll be done after this meeting. So wishing you all, please follow the rules out there. COVID is starting to run rampant, and we want to make sure we keep all of our people safe. If it's a mandate for the province to wear a mask, so please just follow it. It's none of us are thrilled about all of this, but the fact is we just want to keep those who are vulnerable safe. We want to keep our seniors safe, and we just want to get through this together as a community. So please wear your mask, social distance, sanitize, and let's just kind of go back to the basics again and get through this together. So therefore, council, can I get a motion to go into closed session, please? Lisa, Christine, all in favor? Carried. Everybody have a great week. Thanks so much.
We're out.